Amman, the capital of Jordan. It's a big day for a number of animals that have been rescued by the international animal welfare organization Four Paws, transported to Amman and temporarily housed in a transit center. Four Paws are working with a local charity to create the Al-Mawa Sanctuary, a new home for rescued animals, about an hour's drive from the city. Today, many of the animals will be moved from the transit camp to Al-Mawa. While they're not going a huge distance, anesthetizing and then moving a large number of animals, including lions, tigers, and a bear, means it's not going to be easy.
We have three teams. We have the darting team under the leadership of Dr. Zain. We have the examination team up, which is with Dr. Frank and his team, and we have a transport or transfer team.
Many of these animals Dr. Khalil knows well, having coordinated and led the rescue missions that brought them here, like the two young lions, Max and Mona, originally rescued from Gaza, and now much bigger.
I believe they are very, very curious what's going on in the other place.
Despite it being only a temporary stop, the conditions here are considerably better than back in Gaza. The center was set up with financial assistance from the Princess Alia Foundation, following local concern about many animals being kept in substandard conditions.
We went to the very first meeting. The mayor said, "Oh, there are these zoos that are very bad. Can you do something about those?" Yes, of course, we'll try and do something about them, and we had no idea really how to start. And then after that, we heard that Dr. Amir was coming, looking for a regional solution for the illegal trafficking of wildlife. So literally within a couple of days, they transformed it into somewhere that could receive wild animals. Sort of a baptism of fire in a way. We're thrown in the deep end.
At first, Jordan was seen as a transit point.
This was like a transit station, and from here we moved the first animal from here to South Africa to Lions Rock.
But flying animals the 8,000 kilometers from Jordan to South Africa is expensive and risky.
Started the idea why every time when we rescue an animal to move it far away, many thousands of kilometers. And it came the idea that we have to realize a sanctuary which could help not only in Jordan but help in all the Middle East.
With the first stage of the project now complete and ready to take in its first lot of animals, it's a historic day for Dr. Khalil and the Four Paws team, and Mahdi, the director of the Al-Mawa Sanctuary.
This is our biggest move. This is the first time that something like this has been done, at least on the regional level. No one before moved that number of animals and those species. It's something that everyone should be proud of to be part of this.
Formalities over, they move off to look at the equipment that has been brought in for the move. Dr. Guritz, the chief vet on the Four Paws team, wants access holes in the crates in case of emergencies.
Even we have to dart the animal inside for any reason, for not sedation, for giving, we need access with the dart gun.
Next, the team visit the animals that are going to be shifted. First, the big cats. The two tigers were rescued as cubs as they were smuggled across the Jordanian border. The 5 lions came from different places and had been introduced to each other to make a new pride. And Baloo, the brown bear, came from a zoo where he was very badly treated. The move couldn't come soon enough as there is a constant stream of new arrivals. And they're not only large animals like lions and tigers.
So those are our rabbit monkeys. Hey!
Many of these animals are casualties of illegal animal trafficking.
Jordan is the corridor in between different countries. So this is why we are very prone to illegal trade and smugglings through the borders, I mean.
And all sorts of things keep arriving.
Iguana? A ranger just came and he has another set of confiscation. We have here green iguana.
We're the only rescue center in Jordan and probably in the whole region. It's like a must that we take all the animals that they call and say, please take it. Because otherwise the animal would die. They've got no option to take it anywhere else. Even when it comes to reptiles, we do take reptiles. Snakes, crocodiles.
Everyone has to pitch in, even Princess Alia herself.
3 small alligators that we had. And there was suddenly a phone call, it was the winter, and the electricity had gone off down at the centre. And of course, they need a lot of warmth. I said, well, you better send them up and we'll put them in the dining room because it's the hottest room in the house. And the next day there was someone formal who was supposed to entertain for lunch. I said, well, I can't have them in the dining room because it has alligators and snakes in there. Sorry, crocodiles. I thought this is a little bit bizarre.
The Four Paws team are on the road to the new sanctuary 40 kilometers north of Amman. Establishing the reserve required the support of local and international organizations and the Jordanian government, which helped build a new road to allow access to its hilly location.
And we have 4 enclosures down, this way. Okay, for the move for tomorrow.
A large forest was gifted to the Princess Alia Foundation and provides the perfect setting for the sanctuary. Eventually, it's hoped the new center will become an educational resource for locals and tourists. At the end of the day, the team debrief and go over the final plans for the morning.
More important is we work without any stress, really controlled. So we're focusing on doing the procedure well instead of doing as much animals as possible.
But a last-minute emergency means the day's not over. An injured fox has been brought into the center. It's still alive, but in a bad state. Highly experienced wildlife vet Dr. Thomas Hildebrandt conducts the examination.
A trauma, and we were looking for free blood inside the abdominal cavity. We're looking for the condition of the liver.
The ultrasound shows the abdominal organs of the fox are all okay, but there are other indications to suggest the fox is in a bad way.
That's very obvious. If you first, this eye region is swollen, and if we expose it, you see the sclera is very, very red. And the other, so if it could be also an infection, then the sclera gets also red, but if you check the other eye, it is absolutely normal. Something, an injury, could be a car, could be a bicycle, could, yeah, something.
These symptoms suggest bleeding in the skull. They decide to x-ray the fox. Sadly, this confirms the bleeding. Unfortunately, there's little they can do except to keep the fox sedated and hope it survives the night. Four Paws works with other organizations all over the world. The Fundumvelo Tula Tula Rhino Orphanage is a wildlife reserve in South Africa, founded by conservationist Lawrence Anthony, who was renowned for his work with elephants. He was called the Elephant Whisperer. He actually lived alongside them for a month every year, and he encouraged a herd of elephants to become established on land he had set aside for them. Lawrence passed away in 2012, but it appears he's not been forgotten by the animals he loved so much.
Since Lawrence's death, the elephants come to Lawrence Anthony's house. I witnessed it twice. They didn't come straight to the fence, but they came from the other side of the reserve, walking here and coming up, and then they just walk like that. But it's crazy to see. I mean, Lawrence was part of the herd. He literally lived for almost a month with them. So every year since the death of Lawrence, they come back to main house.
What makes it especially remarkable is that the herd comes on the very day that Lawrence died. Tula Tula is still owned and run by his wife, Françoise. But since 2009, it's also been home for a rhino orphanage, offering a home to young rhino that have lost their parents due to the activity of poachers. Despite being highly illegal, the slaughter of rhino for their horns continues at an alarming rate. The Tula Tula Rhino Orphanage is run by Karen Trendler with help from Four Paws. Karen is one of the world's leading experts on this endangered species. Ituba is the most recent arrival at the orphanage, having lost his mother a couple of months ago.
This little boy Ituba comes from a reserve quite close to here. They've had a number of poaching incidents on the reserve. His mother was poached.
At 6 months old, he's still a baby in rhino terms, and not yet able to fend for himself in the wild.
On arrival, he was so traumatized. He then just hated humans. He was smashing himself against the barriers. And on about the 5th day, he suddenly decided, okay, he's going to accept us.
Karen and her team do their best to be surrogates, which means round-the-clock attention, even when he's resting.
They're incredibly tactile. So although this looks like bunny hugging and very cute, it's actually a part of giving him comfort and taking him through the trauma.
Alison is one of Ituba's 3 keepers, along with Axel and Megan.
We're all going to be covered in mud, I can see it. It helps me to get rid of the ticks, protects me from the sun. When I feel hot, I just jump right in here.
What makes this orphanage different is that the young rhino have limited contact with only a small number of humans, 3 permanent volunteers plus Karen. Other places tend to have a larger number of volunteers, which can make the rhinos more comfortable around humans. And that makes them an easy target for poachers.
Oh, good boy.
In the wild, Ituba would be totally dependent on his mother, who would suckle him for up to 12 months and give him constant attention.
Oh, you want to play? Easy, it's me, it's me, it's me.
Being a playmate is exhausting work, and not without risk, with Ituba outweighing them and being able to run twice as fast.
A few times he caught up with me. I wasn't running fast enough, so instead of running into me, he just cut the corner around me and kept going. So I was concerned for a minute, but he decided, I'm not going to kill you today, Meg. You have another day to live. And I appreciate that. It's so fast!
This may look like play, but it's actually an important part of Ituba's rehabilitation, getting him used to interacting with other animals.
The aim is to get him in with other rhino or other calves as well, so that he's got companions and he's completely socialized. Every calf that we can put back into the population that can behave and breed as a rhino is a conservation win.
Within the walls of this enclosure, Ituba is safe, but outside in the reserve, there lurks an ever-present danger.
And it all looks peaceful and calm, but in fact the staff and his carers have been on edge.
They're on edge because evidence of poaching has been found nearby. At Tula Tula Rhino Orphanage, Karen Trendler and her small team of volunteers raise young rhino like Ituba.
You got any teeth coming through? Are you teething a bit?
Ituba's mother was slaughtered by poachers because rhino horn is worth astronomical sums to international syndicates on the black market. Currently, it fetches $90,000 per kilogram, which makes it more valuable than gold. In an area suffering from poverty, the ability to earn encourages poachers, but it's the syndicates that make the big money. Poachers are usually heavily armed, making them a threat not just to the rhino, but also to the staff.
And there have been post-mortems that we've done on poaching incidents where we have found bullets that have been from 2 or 3 previous poaching incidents.
The situation has become so critical that Karen has been forced to call in anti-poaching experts to advise and help improve security. They've looked over the reserve and surrounding area, and what they've found isn't good.
20, 30 snares.
Yeah.
They knocking maybe 2 or 3 impala when they come in, they load those up. It's close to the road. Then they exit. These carcasses are lying all over the place.
So it's close to here?
In that valley there.
Yeah.
Mark has found evidence of game poaching on the reserve. This is a real worry, as quite apart from the destruction or theft of the animals, it's only a small step for them to go after one of the valuable rhinos. There are already guards on the reserve, but Mark is suggesting a more hard-nosed military approach.
Never been one for guns and weapons, and I've always sort of steered away from them. But for me, this morning, standing in the kitchen, just having like all the camouflage and the weapons around, there was this strange sense of safety.
Despite feeling safe, Karen's not comfortable with more guns and guards.
For you guys, it's life. For us, we don't go into this to be weapons and thinking like criminals and snaring. You go in because you love animals, and you're suddenly forced into thinking a different way.
Karen thinks she has good reason to fear for her rhino's safety, especially in the wider reserve, where one of the adult rhinos has a strange injury to one of its ears.
Just that much of her ear was taken off. It wasn't a snare, there's something else very funny on the go. And Alison says subsequently talking to her guys, they also don't feel that it was something normal. Let's go look.
This is a good opportunity to treat the wound.
The wound's not healing so well, so we just need to try and get a better look and treat as much as we can in a short space of time.
While they're looking for injured rhino, Mark outlines more of his plan to beef up the security.
See, what I do with my guys is I'll load up everybody. I'll go and pull guns from everywhere. And I'll just go with I've got 3 bucky loads full of oaks, and it's just guns everywhere.
It doesn't take long to find the rhino with the ear wound and her mate.
We're going to lure them to the car so we can look at her wound. Are you ready, Nunez? Hello, Nunu. Got a spray bottle. There it is. Oh, she's perfect.
Alison reared Ntombi and Tabo from calves, so they trust her to get close enough to daub the wound with antiseptic and healing ointment.
Sorry, Nunu. It's all for your own good. But you see the scratches.
Mark mentions that his men found a hyena caught in a poacher's snare, so they decide to take a look. Poachers face harsh penalties if they're caught.
Christmas Day, I caught a rhino poacher. Me and my associates here, this guy called Poacher. We arrest them, we take them to a police station, we lay cases against them, trespassing on private property. With the horn and the weapon in his position, he goes to jail for life.
Oh, no. He suffered, this poor boy. He fought like...
See the strain in his...
The snares aren't selective, so lots of other animals die unnecessarily. This hyena was of no value for the poachers, which is why it's been left here. It's heartbreaking for Karen.
This hyena's got to me. I don't know why it's got to me so much. Maybe it's just cumulative, or... I don't know why, it just has.
Seeing this makes her even more worried about the safety of her rhino and her staff.
You must understand, if you're pulling your people out,
You're going to have
it's
someone
a month.
in here.
You need somebody to cover you.
We've got to keep 2 rhino guards on, or 4 rhino guards.
You need 4.
Because of night and day.
Day and night.
And then 2 to do the bush.
If you want to be effective, a team that strolls and monitors
all the time,
checks the bush, checks perimeters, live in the bush. They don't come back to the house. I want them out here all the time. They can set up a camp in the bush.
For the sake of the rhino, it's got to be sorted before another one is admitted.
At the Jordan Transit Center, the Four Paws team are up early preparing for the long day ahead. Dr. Guritz is setting up the examination area, and Dr. Shahin gets the anesthetic darts ready. First up are 5 lions. They didn't grow up together, but since coming to the center, they've shared the same enclosure.
Very exciting, and I think it's very good that we managed to introduce the animals together. Like, it was like 2 individuals, and then we did an introduction, then we did a second introduction. So it's very nice to see them all together as a one pride, going all together to a new place. Very exciting. Yeah, it's definitely very exciting.
Once it's clear the dart has taken full effect, the first lion is carefully shifted. Many of these animals have little or no medical background because they were rescued from places that didn't keep records. So while they're sedated, it's a good opportunity to do a full checkup in the temporary examination area. While the first animal is being checked, the next patient is darted and moved. So far, everything is going smoothly, and the first lion is in good shape.
We checked the heart so far and the kidneys, and these organs look very good, very healthy.
After the animal has had its medical check, it's loaded into one of the crates. Dr. Guritz administers an antidote to the anesthetic to bring the lion out of deep sedation. It won't wake him up completely because it's better for the animal if he's partially sedated during the trip. The next lion arrives and another checkup ensues. It's an exhaustive process. They take blood samples and scan with ultrasound and X-rays to get an overall sense of the animal's health. And this animal appears to be in relatively good health as well. If this continues, they will definitely make their end-of-day deadline.
So far, we stick to the schedule. So now we are waiting for the 3rd animal. And so far, we didn't find any major pathology, which is good.
But their luck runs out with the 4th lion, a 7-year-old female.
Yeah, she is from outside a very healthy animal, but inside with ultrasound we found some difficult observations which indicate that she has a health problem. The major health problem is based in the heart. The heart is not contracting enough. It is slightly dilated, and that means she's actually a quite sick animal.
The vet decides she's well enough to make the journey today, but they will need to keep an eye on her. The first crates are loaded onto the trucks as the last lion is readied for examination.
Summer is the 5th lion for the day. We have just started her and we're waiting her to sleep, obviously. Once she's sleeping, we'll just go do the general examination and off we go.
Summer is in reasonable health, so now they can load all the crates. They find branches to put over the crates to shield the animals from the intense sun. Their destination is about an hour's journey from Amman, up in the mountains. But just when everything seems to be going according to plan, the truck driver reports a problem with his brakes. With the road being relatively steep, he can't go on until they're fixed. This is a real worry. It's the hottest time of the day, and the animals are sweltering inside their crates.
What happened? I think the pressure tube went off.
If they don't get the truck moving soon, they risk losing some of them. It's 1 year later at the Rhino orphanage, and it's been an eventful year, especially for Karen Trendler. Diagnosed with cancer, she's been receiving chemotherapy while trying to manage and care for more and more orphaned rhinos.
Part of this whole cancer thing for me was that sudden thing of, oh my goodness, I'm not going to make it. I mean, I really was. And I haven't taught enough, I haven't shared enough, I haven't become a driving thing now, rather than do it myself, to start sharing and teaching.
Axel is one of a number of permanent volunteers who work here and learn about the intricacies of rhino care.
But because rhino can't digest the rice, you have to blend it. It's like a very disgusting liquid thing. It doesn't look tasty, but he likes it. That's the most important. That's all Karen's expertise.
Axel has become particularly fond of 2 black rhinos.
Black rhino are very inquisitive, curious, and very, very clever. That's crazy. I mean, they talk much more. This one, they just, Storm, for example, just talk all the time to you, just come to you and see where you are and just start to like that, you know. So Karen says they talk about the weather.
Nandi came to Tula Tula when she was about 2 months old, after her mother had been killed by poachers. Then a week later, Storm arrived.
Yeah, we are going to give them milk because they are hungry.
2 little miracle black rhino.
Yes, you want. So that's Storm.
At first, Storm was very sick, unable to hold down food and losing weight. It was touch and go, but after keeping him in isolation with round-the-clock nursing, he started to improve.
Just saying to Axel, there's something so relaxing and comforting just listening to them eating.
It have to be my favorite too.
With the black, you like that?
Have to be my favorite.
Rhino have acquired the reputation of being unintelligent, but Axel has discovered that Nandi and Storm are actually very smart.
And one thing I was very surprised is they were around 4 months old. And they were in the neonatal unit, and we had, to close the barrier, it was a system with a latch to lock it. And I don't know how, one morning I woke up with a rhino next to me. I was just, what happened? I'm sure I locked it. And during the day, I saw that both of them understood that it was a latch, so with the top lip, they were just lifting it and just come walk around. It's very clever, you know.
Another recent arrival has made friends with the dog. Her name, Mokosi, came after a chance meeting with Zulu royalty at a petrol station. She was a very sick little calf, and Karen was transporting her to the orphanage.
And we were at the garage in Pongola, and these Zulu royal family came across. And they said, well, what have you got in the vehicle? And we said, a rhino. And they explained to us that the Zulu royalty is linked with rhino. And they said, could we have the honor of naming her? So the Zulu queen named her Mokosi, which is leader.
As if a dog and rhino aren't unusual enough playmates, Mokosi's best friend is a hippo.
Charlie, a hippo, his pod just left him completely. He was abandoned. And they couldn't work out what had happened. And when he was brought into us, he was also really, really tiny. And we had them in the same room the night that she arrived, with a barrier between them. And little Makosi just would not settle. By 3 a.m. in the morning, I was absolutely frantic. She was just beside herself. So I took a chance and dropped the barrier between the hippo and the rhino, and they went like this, lay on the mattress, and that's been ever since.
Charlie, really?
Axel's getting their dinner ready, but it appears they're in no rush to eat. What lies beyond the gate seems to be of more interest. Karen's efforts to persuade them to come back to the main house don't seem to be working. Neither does Axel's unusual suggestion.
Going to tickle your bum.
Rhino and hippos have poor eyesight, so neither Makosi nor Charlie are likely to see a milk bottle from that distance. But they both have a very keen sense of smell, and eventually they realize food is on offer. In Jordan, the big shift of animals by the Four Paws team has come to a dead stop.
As usual, something expected is unexpected, we see all the time. So everything was fine, and now we have problem with the brake, so the pressure. So we have to stop, and the driver tried to repair the car. I hope in the next few minutes we will move. That's to know.
It's the middle of the day. There's no shade, and the team are getting worried about the welfare of the animals inside the transport crates.
So we're cutting some grass or some branches to cover the crates. So it's not an ideal situation for the animals.
But there's a distinct lack of trees and bushes on the side of the road. The Four Paws team gives serious thought to using large bunches of carrots instead. And just when the carrot seller is thinking it could be a very successful day, the brake problem is fixed and the truck is off again.
Very good, very good. Thank you, thank you.
The precious cargo arrives. It's a significant moment. The first animals to be housed at the Al Mahwa Sanctuary. Princess Alia is a patron and has come to watch. This moment represents the culmination of years of effort and cooperation between Four Paws and many different organizations, including her own charity. Even now, when they're just about to be released, the team are still doing their best to keep the animals cool. It's been a big journey for these 5 lions, originally housed in poor living conditions, then moved to the transit center, and now, finally, they're here.
Can't cry in front of all of you guys, but yeah, it's just unbelievable.
5:40 we left. Very long day, but I'm happy that the 5 lions are ending safe here with some logistic troubles on the road, with the truck, with some complications. But luckily we are here now, and with effort, big effort from the team, I believe the team succeeded to release the first 5 lions, and it's a great day for all the team here. So we're very, very happy for the success till now.
Tensions are high at Tula Tula Rhino Orphanage following recent signs of animal poachers being active in the area. Manager Karen Trendler has engaged a permanent unit to patrol the reserve.
There are reports at the moment that syndicates that were operating Kruger, now with the increased security, are now operating here. So we're on high alert again. You know, we get used to living like that, but new volunteers coming in or new people coming in just don't have any idea as to, you know, the level of threat that we're under constantly.
The security team is stepping up its activities. Today, they're running a training exercise, teaching a dog to track someone hiding in the bush.
We're gonna go out and show you how if we find something, we find suspect or some foot tracks.
The dog is given a scent to follow.
So I'll take my dog to track and see if we can find any suspect in the bush that was poaching.
If this were real, it would be a life or death situation for these guards. With poachers facing life in prison if caught, they usually shoot when they're discovered. So these rangers have to be prepared to shoot back and shoot to kill. This level of force doesn't sit well with Karen.
Shoot the poachers, you know, shoot to kill, good policy. But people forget what the impact it has on the ranger. That he's taken someone's life, that he's been put into a position where he's had to protect his own life by shooting someone. If he comes from the same community as the ranger, you know, the poacher that he shot, there have been rangers that have had to actually move out of their communities completely because they've been threatened after.
It doesn't take the dog long to find the pretend poacher in a tree. As much as Karen wishes she didn't have this sort of activity on the reserve, it's essential she does her bit to combat the ever-increasing poaching problem.
And even in South Africa, people are actually unaware of how serious the problem is. We've got transnational organized crime on an incredibly big level operating in this country. It's a war. It changes the situation. And even more frightening than that is it's not just rhino. The illegal trade in wildlife, the poaching of wildlife and wildlife parts on a global level is almost equal to the drug and the weapons trade. So really what we're doing is one tiny part of a much, much bigger global onslaught.
Four Paws is very central to this global effort. Back at the transit center in Jordan, the team are beginning another day of moving animals to the Al Mawa sanctuary. But they're off to a bad start with some sad news about the injured fox brought in yesterday.
Unfortunately, the fox died. He died from a brain edema, which means the brain grows bigger and bigger and the skull compresses the brain, and that makes it very severe.
Every animal is important to the team, and they did all they could for the fox. Now they have to focus on shifting 2 tigers and a brown bear. The tiger's response to being darted by Dr. Guritz is very different to the way the lions responded the previous day.
So I guess it was real proof that tigers are have more temperament than lions. So they're a little bit more suspicious.
Once the first tiger is anesthetized, it goes for a medical check. These 2 tigers were victims of a smuggling operation when they were small cubs. Customs officers found them hidden in a cat carrier, covered in feces, dirty and very aggressive. They've been at the center for more than 2 years now. The first one appears to be in good health. The second tiger has been darted and is ready to be brought in for its checkup. And he will be followed by Baloo the bear. Baloo was spotted languishing in pitiful conditions in a local zoo by one of the co-founders of the Princess Alia Foundation.
She saw Baloo and she came back and she said, "You've got to get that bear," because, you know, he's just, it was such a sad situation.
One dart doesn't seem to have much effect.
The dose wasn't enough, so we had to administer a second dart so he could sleep. He's quite fat, that's why.
So the problem is that if you don't know the animal and the background of the health status, and if you don't know the exact weight, it's hard to calculate the exact dosage. And that's the reason why you start with the minimum doses, maybe sometimes if you're not really know the animal, and then you have to take into account the body weight and sometimes if the needle hits a fat pad, then it takes much longer the induction. So the ideal thing is the needle goes straight into the muscle, and then the induction time is much shorter.
Eventually, the second dart takes effect. Once Dr. Guritz is satisfied Baloo is asleep, they have the challenge of moving him. Not an easy task when he weighs at least 3 times the weight of an average man. More tranquilizer is given to ensure Baloo doesn't wake up.
No. He will fall down by this way.
3, good.
And then he's given a comprehensive medical examination, including an ultrasound of his chest cavity.
And there's no fluid around the heart. It's not a beautiful view, but it's absolutely okay.
Apart from being overweight, Baloo is in good health. That means it's safe to transport him to the sanctuary. The teams from Four Paws and Al Mawa work closely together to get these last 3 animals into their crates.
Yeah, go slowly.
Hands away.
Yeah.
And then the truck heads out with its precious cargo. Hopefully the trip will go more smoothly than it did yesterday. At Tula Tula Rhino Orphanage, Karen Trendler reveals how she came to be involved in caring for young orphaned rhino.
I never chose to work with rhino. I was doing small mammals, birds, just general game from a rehab and rescue point of view.
But then a rhino conservationist sent her a baby rhino to save. Born premature, there was very little chance it would survive.
And against all odds, total ignorance, we kept the calf alive. And it opened up a floodgate of rhino. There was no choice in it, they just came. And the more you work with them, the more you begin to be passionate about them, the more you see of them. And then when you see them being poached at the rate they are, when you see the brutality, when you see their numbers dropping, it becomes more than just a passion for them, it becomes an absolute fierceness, a desire to protect them. So it's about protecting them now, but also thinking in the future. Can you imagine saying to kids, sorry, we let the rhino die on our watch?
This morning, Charlie the hippo and Mukosi the rhino are receiving their regular skin treatment.
In the wild, they would be getting mother's milk and they'd be having proper mud baths and under normal conditions, so the skin is okay. Once you bring them into a captive situation and they're not out in the wild and they're under infrared heating, the skin dries quite a bit. So we give them the aqueous baths and we do regular rubs. It's actually very calming and very relaxing for the rhino, and anything that you can do to keep their stress down and make life more pleasant, the better weight gain they get and the happier they are, the better the long-term chances for us putting them back into the wild.
There are older rhino at the orphanage that are getting closer to going back into the wild, like Ituba. Axel has cared for Ituba ever since he was first brought to the orphanage.
My first orphan rhino, so yeah, it's a special boy. Ituba, for the first 4 months, you have to spend all the time with them because in the wild they got the mom, it's the big protection, so when they are scared they got this big tank to protect them, so they always seek comfort at a small age. So yeah, that was a quite traumatized baby. But after a few months, yeah, he was fine. He started to grow up and he was more independent.
With no mothers, Axel and the other volunteers must act as surrogates to the young orphans. Not surprisingly, a strong bond forms between human and rhino. However, it can't be allowed to last too long if that animal is ever going to fend for itself in the wild.
And now we arrive at the stage, he's been introduced to this 3 rhino, and he doesn't want me anymore. He's the big male, so yeah, he just wants me out, which is good.
Karen's ultimate aim is to return each of her orphan rhinos to the wild.
There's a huge concern when you're rearing rhino. You have to try and find that balance between giving them appropriate mothering and comfort, which entails bonding, having a human bond with that calf. But at the same time, you don't want that little rhino to become too humanized, because when it goes back to the wild, you get problematic, and rhino that is too tame and too used to humans becomes much more vulnerable to poaching.
Obviously, when they grow up, you start to put distance and have less contact. And with a rhino like Ituba, I don't touch him anymore. And he doesn't want me to touch him anyway. He will just knock me away.
The current weaning phase that we're going through with Ituba and with Ituba's group is a critical part of the next stage, which is going to happen within the next 2 to 3 weeks. Ituba and Tando, who are 2 little bulls who came from the same reserve, are going to be moved to a very large camp. And hopefully in 9 months to 12 months' time, they will be free and wild rhino, which is what this is actually all about.
I'm excited. Maybe the D-Day I will be crying, who knows, But so far I'm very excited. I just want to see them in this big boma and just grazing and be wild rhino family.
Unfortunately, it's not an option to return any of the animals in Jordan to the wild. Raised in captivity, they've never learned the skills and instincts they would need to survive. However, for the 5 lions transported yesterday and the 2 tigers and Balu the bear who are being moved today, a more satisfying and enriching life awaits them at the Al-Mawa Sanctuary. Today marks the official opening of the sanctuary. Four Paws and the Princess Alia Foundation have been working towards this day for more than 2 years.
But today we can really look back on a good development, and it's so good that now the first animals will come here, will get here their new homes, and I think it's a big project for the region here, for the tourism in the region, and also for the people here, to learn about the animals. We want to connect the humans and the animals to bring them together in their minds.
So I think it's really a raising of awareness on really learning that this is what an animal should be like, not, come and see it in the zoo and, it's lying down and half dead.
Dignitaries, media, the Four Paws and Al Marwa teams all watch nervously as the transport crates are unloaded and positioned in the enclosures for the release. Before long, the first tiger comes out. He's still feeling the effects of the sedation. Baloo the bear plays it safe, giving his new surroundings a cursory once-over before retreating back into the privacy of his crate.
There were a lot of people around, talking, chatting, whatever, so that was not easy for him. And bless him, he's got a point, I think.
The second tiger shows no ill effects from the trip. Clearly, he wasn't happy with the indignity of being cooped up in a box and wants everyone to know it. It will take several days before all the moved animals settle properly into their new surroundings. However, this has been a very successful start for the new Al Marwa sanctuary.
I left all my studies in London just to come and be part of that, so I have huge respect to what Al Marwa is doing. It's not easy to be in the region and be alone. We're the only, Al Marwa is the only sanctuary in the whole Middle East. I have seen miracles here coming true, so no, I have huge respect to this organization. And I'm very happy to be part of it. I mean, I'm blessed.
5 lions, 2 tigers and 1 bear could also be feeling very blessed to be at Al Marwa.
It's the first time that they have smelt a tree, rolled in the earth, smelt real nature around them. It's the first time ever they've been off concrete. And to be a part of that, to help in making that happen for any living soul is really such an honor. Look at that.